Welcome back. The storms that have flooded Texas and Oklahoma over the past few weeks have ended a brutal 5-year drought there. But in California, where the drought has lasted almost as long, they are still praying for rain, and we probably should be praying along with them. Our Natisha Lance has been looking into this. Natisha, what do you have?
Well, what we found out is that the drought that's happening in California isn't just an isolated issue that's going on. It's affecting everyone across the country through their finances and also through their diet, most importantly. So if you're wondering how that affects you, here's what we found out. No matter where you live, how you're affected by the California drought.
Today, I'm declaring a drought emergency in the state of California.
For the first time in state history, Governor Jerry Brown ordered residents and municipalities across California to cut their water use by 25%. The only problem, according to the Pacific Institute, is residential and municipal uses only make up about 20% of water usage. The other 80% comes from California farmers, which makes cutting back a little harder.
So water's the main thing here. Without water, we cannot survive.
The reality is all Americans are tied to the California drought and don't even know it. The average American consumes more than 300 gallons of California water every week, just by eating. That's because more than a third of the country's veggies and nearly 2/3 of its fruits and nuts come from the Golden State. So before you fill your grocery bag, think about how much water it takes to grow these foods by the pound. Grapes, 45 gallons. Rice, 115. Avocado, 233 gallons. And almonds, 457. If the drought continues, farmers may be forced to slash production. And that means prices may go up for us.
So Yasmin, if you're looking at all those fruits and vegetables that were in there, that's primarily my grocery list.
Yeah,
I know it's probably yours
Yeah,
too.
I love avocados. Eat them all the time.
Yeah, exactly. So let me give you another example. Do you like artichokes?
Love them.
Okay, so artichokes are California's official vegetable, and for almost every artichoke that's grown in the United States comes from California. So the Department of Agriculture says in 2013, fresh artichokes retailed for $2.21 a pound on average. But we got in contact with a major grocery store chain, and now they're selling for about $3. So it's gone up about 30% over the last several years.
30% markup. That is unbelievable. And so long as the drought persists, it will only go up even more.
Prices are going to continue to go up.
All right, so now we've got to figure out how we can help, what we can do. So California's drought crisis has led to strict water restrictions that went into effect this week, and the threat of $500 fines for wasting water is pitting neighbor against neighbor. Loki posted this tweet this morning. He said, "It's a bummer my neighbor is wasting California's water for their lawn on a no watering day when my small veggie garden suffers and dies." So despite the strict rules governing residential water use, multinational corporations, most not even based in California, keep sourcing their bottled water from California. The question is, why? Especially when it's caused so much outrage that hundreds of thousands of people have signed various petitions to ban the practice, including this one, Change.org petition targeting Nestle. Eddie Kurtz is the executive director of Courage Campaign. It's a group of online community organizers battling big water, along with the creator of the Change.org petition that I'm talking about. Eddie joins us now via Skype from Oakland. Eddie, thank you so much for being here and the work that you're doing. Before we start, I want to mention that we reached out to Nestle for comment on this story, and they did not get back to us in time. Eddie, why do these companies continue to source their water in California despite the local drought and the nationwide repercussions?
Thanks, Yasmin. It's an honor to be here. The reason they're continuing to do this is because it's business as usual. There's profit motive. As you pointed out, Nestle is not an American company. It's a Swiss company. It's the biggest beverage company in the world, and there are dollars at stake. It's sad, but taking tap water and turning it into bottled water is a very lucrative business, and they don't intend to stop that.
It's interesting. On your Change.org petition, you have a statistic like that, and it says Nestle pays just $186 for 250,000 gallons of water, and then they turn around and sell that for $2.1 million. That is a markup of more than 1,000,000% on water being taken from one of the most drought-stricken regions of the state in California. That is unbelievable. I actually was reading that to my producer before we did the segment, and I kept trying to correct him. Are you sure those are the numbers? Are you sure those are the numbers? So, Eddie, Change.org, this Change.org petition says that Nestle agreed last month to take 8% less water from California. Pardon the pun, but is that just a drop in the bucket?
Well, it's absolutely a drop in the bucket. And the way they're doing that is they're actually getting slightly more efficient. For example, if they take a gallon of our groundwater, they actually don't end up with a gallon in the bottle in the store. They actually lose some in the processing. So they're going to get 8% more efficient. And while that's great, it's meaningless. Just as you're saying, it's a drop in the bucket. And this is a enormous problem for not only California, but for the country, for the world. And we need to stop business as usual and get these companies to do the right thing.
So, Eddie, if we are not able to turn this around, what's worst case scenario?
Well, the worst case scenario is that California can't provide the produce that the rest of the country needs, that there's jobs, millions of jobs in California. I mean, California is the 8th largest economy in the world. The agriculture sector is 2% of our economy. The damage as far as a recession in California, economic damage to human beings. I mean, there's 1 million Californians right now that don't have access to drinking water. But it's a real problem. Mm-hmm.
And you're getting unprecedented support for this.
Absolutely. We're at couragecampaign.org. We're the online organizers of a progressive California. And we haven't had this much excitement and interest and virality in a petition since we organized around marriage equality and Prop 8. When Prop 8 happened, it was a huge explosion of activism, and this is the biggest thing since then. And that just shows, and there's a poll that came out yesterday, the PPIC, the Public Policy Institute of California, showing that this is the #1 issue for Californians, the #1 public policy issue they're concerned about.
Yeah, I can only imagine. And honestly, for the country, really, Eddie, especially considering what we just talked about and seeing the piece that Natisha presents to us earlier. Eddie Kurtz, Executive Director of Courage Campaign, thank you so much for joining us. Listen, in addition to signing Change.org's petition or contacting your local congressman, there are tons of ways that you can save water at home right now. If you're inside, check for leaks, turn off the faucet while brushing your teeth or shaving, and outside, xeriscaping. That's landscaping with things like rocks and plants that don't need much watering. Also, mulch your trees and plants.